On. Hi, guys, and welcome back. This is our third episode. I'm Amanda Wilson, and I'm here with Jennifer Brennan. And today we're going to talk about a controversial topic, soul contracts. So, Jen, tell me a little bit about your understanding of soul contracts.
From what I understand about soul contracts, in the idea of reincarnation, each life we come into, we're here to attain a higher level of consciousness and knowledge for our soul to just eventually ascend. And the idea behind soul contracts is that you accepted the life that you came into in order to attain whatever knowledge your soul was meant to learn. And that can include you choosing your family members. It also includes that your families kind of stay in similar soul families. So see, you're like your grandmother can come back as your sister, can come back as your, like there's a whole idea that, we're all connected with these same families and that there's more to it than just meets the eye.
Yeah. So do you think, and from your understanding of it, do you think that it's kind of like we're predestined to learn different things, and that those lessons are indicated at birth? It's already known when you come into this world? Okay.
I do. But one thing that people often ask is, what about free will?
Yeah.
And just my own, I haven't read this anywhere, but it's just kind of the opinion that I've come to is that I believe free will really expedites how fast you get from point A to point B. So you can be on a path, but if you let yourself keep getting stuck in areas and not growing, you're not going to get there faster. So like imagine taking a trip from here to Florida, and I can get there in a year if I'm doing, the right things, listening to the messages that I'm supposed to be hearing, and making good, honest, moral choices. But if I want to give in to free will and make, selfish choices that can often be detrimental to your mind, body, and spirit, you get there a lot slower. It may take you 5 years to take a 1-year trip,
True.
And I think that, really affects how quickly you get from point A to point B.
I can see how that is true. Yeah, and I think free will is the one thing that kind of keeps me going back and forth from how I, whether I actually, fully agree with the soul contract idea or whether I don't. And so that kind of gives me a little bit of a different perspective of, how free will is still a part of your life, but it's just slowing down the process of growth. If I'm hearing you correctly.
Yeah.
Because I do believe that, we are all here to learn valuable lessons, and that, we're here up to the point until we have learned those lessons, and kind of played out life as it's supposed to be. I just have trouble with the idea that, when I was born, that all of these traumas and all of these things that I had to endure were part of some kind of debt that I have to pay off from a
It's not
past
necessarily
life.
a debt, though. It could be a debt. There's different options. If you have, there are beliefs that, if hell is on earth and heaven is on earth. And when you're making those good choices, also, that's the kind of also to piggyback on the free will, you're going to come and learn these lessons that you didn't learn, whether you weren't ready to, or for whatever reason you didn't learn. So you're going to come back and either it feels too punishment-like to pay your debt, but there's some aspect of that growth. All of it's for growth. All of it's for a greater good.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily, it's more or less knowing that things are supposed to happen to help you get to point B. For instance, where's your path? Your path is a healer or a healing guide. But so how are you able to help the people you're able to help? Most likely through experiences,
Mm-hmm.
Everything we've been talking about, surrender.
Mm-hmm.
How am I able to surrender? Well, I'm able to surrender because I've experienced things and I know how things turn out. And that has gotten me to this point. So these things might seem like bumps in the road because it's all a perception of what's good or bad. Like, who says what's good or bad? It's just what we wanted or what we didn't want
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah.
Something that happens now, if it happened, 20 years ago, might have been a different experience, or in 20 years from now. So it's like, really, what is good or bad?
Right. Yeah. And I think that ties back to, we were talking about needing to do a video on perception,
Yeah.
because again, that's perceiving what is good or bad. I think too with soul contracts, like there's so many different philosophies of reincarnation in all different, areas of religion. Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, there are seven, very specific numbers and very specific, levels of things that you need to achieve to get to a certain place. And I think it's really fascinating. I do like wonder about, suffering,
It's
and
so crazy you said that, because I was literally just thinking about The Art of Happiness, and how I learned about suffering through The Art of Happiness, and how it discusses how suffering is it's so crazy, how suffering is essential. And I actually
yeah,
wrote a poem
nice.
uh, about suffering.
Yeah. And it is essential. I do believe it is essential. But I also believe there's a way out of suffering,
Yeah.
obviously. And that is, up to us to make the decision to bring ourselves out of suffering through, there's many different vehicles that we can do
Yeah.
that through.
I'm going
Um,
to pull it up on my phone real quick when you're, hold on.
yeah. So, I'm just, like I said, like I haven't really kind of completely in 100% absorbed and agreed that soul contracts absolutely are there. I've read Carolyn May's Soul Contracts, her book on that. I've read, was it Carolyn May's that wrote it?
I'm not
Soul
sure.
Contracts. Anyway, I've read books and kind of looked into it, and a lot of times I'm like, yeah, 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 yeah. And then I experience something in my life that makes me go, wait a minute. I'm just not sure that this was somebody's soul contract. Like how could somebody come into this world to be brutally murdered? How could somebody, like that
You
kind
don't
of,
know what they did in their past life.
yeah. And I mean, that's
Maybe they
definitely,
maybe they murdered someone and they needed to experience being murdered. I know
yeah.
this sounds very harsh,
Mm,
but we don't know.
yeah.
We don't know. And there's so much, we think we're just walking through life like it's just a normal thing. But if you really think, like, this is just crazy that there's a bunch of people that are stuck on this earth and we're all just living our lives. And like, what's the purpose?
Right.
And not
Right.
enough people question it. My 8-year-old son is asked me, Mommy, what's the purpose of life? Why are we here? At 8, he already is like, what's going on? What what are we doing? You
Yeah.
know? And so, like, the idea that we're just here to push a button and keep it moving is just crazy to me. There's got
Hmm.
to be something more.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. There's definitely something more. There's definitely some, and I definitely believe there's something greater than us that is working for and with us and guiding us along the way. Absolutely, 100%. I agree in that. With that, and I do. I've done past life regression. I've had them done for myself, and oftentimes in that past life there were those regressions, there's been a lot of like, yeah, I was a healer in past lives. I've all different types of things have come up
Yeah.
for that. And I question, when you do past life regressions, and this is something that I often teach with Reiki and when I'm talking to my students is, like I do that and then I sit there and think, oh, well, I just made that up in my head and that's not true. But I mean, there are words and things that come up that like I have no idea what they mean. And then I have to research them to find out what they meant. And then it makes sense. And a lot of times with Reiki, a lot of times students like have sensations or they feel things on the client. They're like, I'm just making it up. And in reality, imagination is not necessarily imagination, but more of a connected connection to divinity. And
Mhm.
we're being guided through that. So those imaginary friends are not necessarily imaginary friends.
Yeah.
Um, that kind of stuff. So I think, like through further study, and you've really kind of encouraged me and given me, kind of a goal to relook at soul contracts and get a better understanding and kind of, challenge my own views on this a little bit more. So thank
Well, the
you.
reason why I really wanted to discuss it was because of our previous video that spoke on surrender.
Mm,
And if you can accept that you accepted this life in order for a greater good,
yeah.
that it might be a lot easier to swallow.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear the poem that I wrote on
I would love
suffering?
to.
All right.
But first, I want you to say that again. Accept that you've.
That you've accepted this life,
That you've accepted this life.
or maybe even designed it.
Okay. Yeah.
You might have been the old architect to your life.
Yeah. That's great.
And who knows? There's so much we don't know. There's so much we don't know about the mind, the body. And so for people to be so close-minded that there's more to life than what we've already discovered, it's just not, it's just, I can't fathom
Right.
that we know everything.
Yeah.
The things that are just not even possible.
Yeah.
So the poem says, suffering is inevitable, essential to the way we grow, forcing you to dig down deep, pleasures you are soon to reap, refining your inner strength, transcending to a place you're meant to be and use the lessons learned, knowing it's a life you've earned. Way beyond the mind's conception lives a life that's your perfection, better than you ever thought, in return for all you fought. Payment for your strength and tears, as you conquered all your fears, building up your daily armor, forced upon for you to harbor. Fortitude with attitude, bring upon an interlude, pause, think, and recollect, learning most in retrospect, evolving to a higher self, bionic with grace and stealth, grateful for my path to life, love wrapped up, disguised as strife. I live, I love, I learn, I grow, I break, I fall, I reap, I sow.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. But that inspired me after reading The Art of Happiness.
Yeah.
It really helped understand what the purpose of suffering is.
Yeah.
Because we had discussed earlier how people who are meant to guide healing
Mm,
had to endure challenges,
yeah.
because I believe that we're meant to become dysfunctional in our lives and have mental dysfunction, to then learn how to dismantle that dysfunction, to then guide others in dismantling it.
Yeah.
So, there's that saying, your heart of the path, the
Mm,
higher the path.
yeah.
I really believe there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jen.
Of course.
And we're really interested in your feedback. So if you have comments about your understanding of soul contracts or surrender from our last video, please feel free to leave us comments. And also, if you have ideas on topics that you would like us to discuss, leave those for us too. Thanks for watching.
And once again, also, these are just our thoughts. We're not here to preach anything. We're not here to tell you to believe this. This is just how we feel. And, just the experiences that life has brought to these points.
Yes,
We're not trying to preach anything.
absolutely not. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.
See you later.